Big K Experience show now streaming on Dynamic Living Radio.
Hey everybody, this is the Big K Experience with the B, and I have a special guest on my show today, Chris Curtis. How you doing, sir?
Good. How you doing today?
You know what? Not too bad. It's just a beautiful Sunday for me. So I got my daughter out of the house for a little bit so we can nail out this interview. So I'm pretty excited about it. And my family's actually known you for quite a while. Isn't that true?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I know my sister has brought you up countless times, and I've been meaning to get the show started just so I could have you on. And as soon as I had the opportunity, I remember telling her, hey, remember your friend from Orange County? Why don't you give him a call and see if he wants to do the show with me? And I was lucky enough for you to say yes, so I'm pretty excited to have you on. How's your day going so far?
My day's good. It's, Sunday. It's just kind of moseying around, cleaning up, went and washed my truck. Just doing, getting ready to go back to work tomorrow.
You know what I did? So I have a vacuum, right? And it's one of those kind where you can detach the top of it and vacuum whatever you want. But I haven't used it in such a long time. Obviously, I'm not a clean freak, right? But so I'm pushing buttons trying to get the cartridge off of it. And I push one button and the whole bottom of it just drops out and there's just dust everywhere. So everything I just vacuumed, it was all over the main hallway. I was like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Why would they set it up like this? And it's like, now that I look back on it, it's responsibly designed. I'll be honest, right?
Yeah.
But in that moment, I was very upset at whatever. I think it's Shark or something like that. I was about to write him an angry email. So that's my day so far. So we have Orange County, The Dark Side is the book that you wrote. Tell me a little bit about yourself before we get into the book, or just give me a little bit of your background. So I know you came from Orange County. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Yeah. Yeah. So.
All right. So tell me about that.
So I grew up in the city of Orange till about the age of about 14 or 15. But, I came from a really good home, actually, in the beginning. My dad had a successful construction business. He's a bricklayer. He was a baseball coach, Little League Baseball. I raced bikes, just a normal kid, We didn't really not have anything, we were pretty blessed at that time in my life. But then, around the age of around the age of 11 or 12, things kind of went bad, My dad started using cocaine. I didn't know at the age, I was just a young kid, but he started using cocaine, and what essentially happened was, he lost the house, and then he lost everything, really, and then my parents got a divorce. And then we went to live with my dad, me and my brother, and
wait, so just to clarify, so he started using cocaine, him and your mom were still married at the time.
Yeah, this is before I even knew what was going on. I was just a kid. I didn't know what was going on,
Gotcha.
I was too young to really, I was too busy just being a kid and riding my bike and just doing kid stuff to really understand what was going on, but about 13 years old, we went to go live with my dad and my mom. They were divorced. And, we moved in with him in this house. He had a roommate, he's an Italian guy. And my uncle lived there, and my dad and his girlfriend. And, the house was run down. I didn't really know what was going on. But, a little while later, it was New Year's night. My dad, me and my friend were sitting at the kitchen table, and my dad walked in, and he had a vial with white stuff in it.
Oh, dang.
And he poured some on the mirror, chopped it up, made a couple lines, did one, and then goes, "Here, try this." I was 13 years old, and
wow.
I did it, and it was instant euphoria, And then my best friend did it too, and then we quickly learned what was going on, My dad's roommate was a big-time coke dealer, weed, all that stuff, like large amounts of it. And so for the next couple years, we were just doing cool. I'd get lines for doing the dishes, for washing the truck. For Christmas, I got a half gram of cocaine and a carton of cigarettes,
Dang.
And it was just, and being a kid, and not really, thinking, "Oh, I have the best dad in the world, he's giving us drugs, this is great."
Yeah, right.
You know?
How did you interact with other kids though? I mean, like you had to be a huge like social difference going from a house where
Oh
they
yeah,
give you
there
lines
was
for doing the
anyways.
dishes.
You know, there was. Yeah, our friends, we just kind of stayed to ourselves. You know, we were outcast. You know, I remember one time. Okay, so after they moved out of our first house and they lost the first house, we moved to this other house. My parents had not yet got divorced, but there was only about 3 or 4 months in between moving when they got divorced and he moved into the other house. I started at this new school and I made some new friends pretty fast. We hung out every day after school and then one day they were all waiting for me, like, you know, and they were had a weird look on their face. I'll never forget this. And they were saying I was a drug addict. Yeah, you're a drug addict, you know, calling me cocaine sniffer. And I'm just a kid. I'm like, what? What's going on here? And
wow.
Come to find out, their parents, my new friends' parents, new friends of my dad's, you know, new friends of my dad's. And I guess they found out who I was and they were telling their kids, hey, you know, his dad's a drug addict. He just lost everything. And so now all these kids in school, they're not allowed to hang around me. So I'm, you know, this is in fifth grade. Fifth grade or sixth? This is fifth grade. So like I was an outcast, you know, right off the bat, you know, like none of the kids wanted to be around me. I was a drug addict. You know how that goes when you're a kid in school, you know. And the funny thing is,
you know, you kind of get it from parents out there that are afraid of their kids running a lifestyle they don't want them to live. But you also got to think to yourself, like, why wouldn't you bring the kid in, right, whose dad is obviously fallen off and probably went in a bad way there for a little bit. Maybe try to bring that kid into the house to show him a more stable lifestyle. Because that's the thing with kids is you love your parents regardless. Right. But if you don't ever see a version of life that's a little different, then that's normal to you. And that you're normalizing every bit of it across the board. Yeah. So much so that eventually years down the road, you start doing lines for doing the dishes.
Yeah. Yeah. And I remember, like, you know, when my dad brought that, you know, cocaine out, the first thing I thought about was what those kids said. You know, this is months, you know, 6-7 months later. That's the first thing I thought about was what the, you know, like, hey. But at this time, I made some friends, you know, and we would just do cocaine and party and just thought we had it made, you know. We thought we were the coolest kids on the block, you know.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, quickly, you know, I ended up in juvenile hall not like a year later. Me and my friends, we got kicked out of a Saturday work study. I went to Sarah Villa Junior High School in the city of Orange in in Villa Park in Orange County. So it's a nice area, except, you know, you got the rich side and then you got that's not so rich on the, you know, the other part of the, you know. And anyways, so we broke into the cafeteria and just destroyed it, you know. We got kicked out of a Saturday work study. We were there all weekend long. We went back and forth, partied in there, like threw the piano off the stage, broke all the trophies, just destroyed the place, you know. Why? I don't know. We're just kids. But, you know, that Monday we ended up in juvenile hall for that. They knew who it was, you know. And so, you know, that was my first trip to juvenile hall, you know. And
what's
then,
juvenile
you know,
hall like?
Well,
I don't even know what juvenile hall is like. Is it similar to like county or what is it like?
No, it's a totally different atmosphere. So, when I went there, it was you know, it was a trip, you know, just a kid. The door shuts on you. You're just like, what the hell is going on here? But you know, you go into receiving just like anywhere else, you know, and you come out you just stay in your cell when you first get there. I was only there overnight the first time, you know, but it's a different, you know, atmosphere, you know. Being a kid is scary at first, you know. You don't know what to expect. You hear all these, you know, stories about what jail and prison or whatever. But I was only there overnight, and then we got let out on probation, and then I was on probation, me and my friends, and then you know, we just partied for, you know, a couple years before I moved back in with my mom, you know, and then a week later, my dad, you know, the house got raided, and you know, geez. Yeah. So then we stayed with my mom for a while, you know, and then And then my mom moved to Anaheim. So actually, my mom moved to Anaheim, and then I moved in with my dad for a little bit again, in Orange, still right off the Glasell Street, and in these apartments by Schaefer Park. And now my dad didn't know where to get cocaine, because his connection's gone. And me and my friends, we used to run back and forth to Santa Ana to get coke, whatever. Even though we had it there at the house, sometimes we just went to Santa Ana because we got better deals or whatever. So now, I was going to get it for my dad, My dad would have me go get it for him, like on Friday after work or during the week or whatever. I'd call a friend, he'd come pick me up, we'd go down there, It was no problem.
Yeah, that's crazy. I always remember when I was younger, I would have friends that you would be going to buy dope or whatever, and one of them would come up and be like, "Oh, I got to get some for my dad too." But for me, I was always shocked because my dad was very much, and my family. Well, my brother and sister obviously partied. My mom and dad 100% against using. So I was always so shocked when I found out a kid was getting drugs for their parents.
Yeah, it happens, dude. More than you think,
Oh yeah, all the time. Like that's what I'm saying. I'd see it enough. I remember going to somebody's house and they left me alone with their dad to smoke a joint when I was like 16 or 17. And it just totally freaked me out. Like I couldn't even speak. I was so nervous being in there.
Yeah. So then, like there was a few times where like it'd be on Friday night and my dad would be like, "Hey, can you go get me some coke?" And I'm like, "Hey, my friends are here to get me," And I'd be like, "Hey, I got to go," and then I would take off leaving. And then he would, before I got in the car, he would yell, "Hey, you're on restriction, get up here. You didn't take out the trash or whatever." And I'd go in my room, and then he would come in 5 minutes later and say, "Hey, can you go give me some coke now?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." I didn't realize it till years later that, when I really thought about the situation, that he actually put me on restriction for not getting him cocaine, because the trash can was only a quarter full. Why would you take it out, But, and then I ended up running away from there and went to live with my brother.
How old were you at this time?
15.
Gotcha.
15 or 16.
So you've already went back and forth quite a few times by this point, right?
Oh, yeah. I was
between your mom and your dad.
I was all over the place. Bro.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then I went and lived with my brother for a while. We just did more drugs or whatever. And then I ended up going to juvenile hall for cashing stolen checks or whatever, Yeah. And I was spending like 90 days in there, I was around 15 at the time, 16 years old. And, I just, it was a trip, man. Because it's mostly Mexican kids. It's not that many white kids. You know what I mean? And
yeah.
So I did my 90 days and I got out and went to live with my mom in Anaheim. And
gotcha. So what's your mom like at this point in time?
She's just like,
what's your mom's life like?
Well, she's just like trying to survive. She refused to go on welfare, so she couldn't get no help. You know what I mean? So she was trying to raise us, with what she had. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She worked at the Penny Saver, for a long time. But so I went to
So she didn't use or anything like that. She was just your mom.
Yeah.
Gotcha. All right.
So so I ended up going to juvenile hall a couple more times for getting dirty tests and, whatever. And then eventually, I turned 18, got off probation, and that's when I started doing meth, in Anaheim.
Ooh.
And then
just when things get real, huh?
Yeah, that's when yeah. So, once I started doing that, I started, going out about on the streets and shit. Because when you do cocaine, you just kind of sit in the house. You don't really go nowhere. But then when I started using methamphetamine, I started running the streets, And
yeah.
I started running around with gangs, and I started, doing all this crazy stuff, and I used to see these guys carrying guns or whatever, and I was thinking to myself, well, I'm not going to be like that, never, I'm never going to,
Yeah.
But, actually, that's exactly what happened, I ended up becoming pretty crazy, I was getting shot at, and then I'm like, I better start carrying a gun, at this point. And then, so there was a lot of shootings, a lot of stuff I went through, running around with gangs. I ended up shooting 2 people in 1995. it was one of them situations where, I couldn't get away with it. It was, it was then and there. I came to the point where I carried a gun with me everywhere I went. You know what I mean? I kept it loaded, and I've shot at several people. I didn't think twice about doing it either. In the middle of the daytime, it didn't matter. I was just, I lost my mind. I was trying to make a name for myself. And I just didn't care about nobody but my friends. And I ended up, shooting at this one guy in front of this house by Disneyland over some dope. I didn't know at first. What happened was we were at this house, and we rented a room there to sell dope out of, me and my friend. And this girl's like, hey, this guy, he's out in the car. He wants to buy an ounce of dope. I'm like, all right, well, tell him to come in. She's like, nah, he don't want to. I'm like, all right. So I grabbed the dope. I already got my gun on me. So I go out there, and I'm like, hey, give me the money. And he's like, oh, give me the dope first. And I showed him my gun. I'm like, look, if I wanted your money, I would just take it right now. So he throws, a wad of cash on the passenger seat. It looks like it's the money or whatever. So I pick it up, put the dope on it. He just burns rubber. And in my mind, I'm like, why is he doing this? So I start shooting at him. So I'm shooting at him as he's going around the corner. This is like right by Disneyland in the middle of the daytime, And I go back in the house, and my friend's like, fuck, Chris, what do you do? I'm like, what the hell? You know what I mean? So I was always doing stuff like this was always happening with me. I'm like, I don't know. He just took off, man. And we counted the money. It was $5 short. It was, $5 short. This was like, he could have just said something.
Oh my God.
But in my mind at the time, I'm just like, why is this dude doing that? What's going on here? Is the money fake or what's happening here? So my first thing is get him, and, it started, and that started a bunch of,
that's the craziest part. You know what? It's like when you do too many drugs, you'll watch someone's humanity just go away, right? And it's one of those things where I think once you start using those things that you always said, I would never do that, you eventually do it if you keep using, right? And especially if you keep using more and more and having to get into a different lifestyle. Because the person I was when I used to party here and there to the person I was when I ended up, being out there just destroying my life and everything, two completely different types of people. And so I get what you're saying, man. That transition has to happen, and it creeps up so slowly, and your world gets so distorted because you're on the strongest drug that there is. That all of a sudden, dude, the person you were, you didn't even realize you've become it, until you are it. And then now that's just what you are. So I get what you're saying, but that's insane. $5 short. Guy acts like a crazy person. You shoot at him because it's a natural response, right? Like you think you're going to open that up and it's going to be paper money inside somewhere, right? There has to be something. And it's $5 short. That's crazy.
And then so that started some problems with these guys. They were like, whatever. Why is Chris shooting at my friend? And whatever. We're just like, we don't care. Me and my buddy.
Why is Chris shooting at my friend?
Me and my buddy, we were like, we don't care about, none of this. Like, whatever you want to do it. So then some other stuff happened with these guys. Like one of their friends got killed in a high-speed chase, and I was on the phone with and then my friend ended up getting in trouble and went to prison. So I was on the phone with him at this house after one of their friends got killed in a high-speed chase in Anaheim by the cops. They were a high-speed chase on a motorcycle. He crashed and died. And we were on the phone and we laughed about it, like, she's our friend. We're like, well, there was this girl there who was really good friends with all these people. So she went and told them about it. So now these guys are calling, my friend, telling her, my friend Crystal, telling her, oh yeah, we're going to get Chris, Chris, we're going to get him. I mean, they're coming after me. And mind you, Crystal's telling them, like, hey, if you come after Chris, he's probably going to shoot you, so you better be careful. Like, you know what I mean? And they're like, yeah, whatever.
He shot someone over $5.
Yeah, and then so, a couple months later, I'm in this apartment complex, and I'm with this girl, and I'm in the car. She goes upstairs to drop off something, and I'm just in the car, and then I see a bunch of guys out from the apartment complex. I'm just watching them. I don't know who they are, and I got my gun on me, so I don't care. And then they leave, and then she tells me to come up. So I go up in the apartment. I'm sitting on the couch, and then these guys come in the apartment. And then I realized who they were. It was all these dudes that said they were going to get me, for laughing at their friend that died.
Yeah.
So they're looking at me, and I'm looking at them, and they split. And I tell the girl I'm with, I'm like, hey, we're leaving right now. We got to get out of here because I don't know if they're going to go get guns or whatever they're going to do. My best chance is to get out now. I'm survival mode at this point. I'm getting out of here. Whether I have to shoot my way out, I'm leaving. I'm gone. And this guy comes out. He's all tatted up. He's an older guy saying, hey, these guys, they said they're going to jump you. You just stay here. I'm like, I'm out of here. Like, this guy's got kids around the house and stuff. I'm like, look, I'm not here to disrespect your house. You got kids here. I'm getting out of here. Because if these guys try anything, I'm going to shoot them. And so there's to it. Like, I'm leaving. He's like, all right, whatever. So, we're leaving, and I'm on top of the stairs that go down to the street. And there's like 7 guys down there or whatever. So I tell the girl that I'm with, hey, just get in the car. They're not going to mess with you, So we walk down the stairs. She gets in the car, and then I'm just like, I got my hand in my pocket. I'm looking at these guys. I'm like, hey, what's going on? And they don't even say nothing. They're just like looking at me. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. So I get in the car. I'm in the passenger seat, and they rush the car. And they're like hitting me through the window or whatever. I got a bunch of money and drugs on me. So they start opening the door. I just shot them. I just put my gun out the window and just shot like 5 times, Yeah. And at this point, the girl that I'm with screaming, saying they're shooting at us, and she stalled the car and everything. So I get out of the car, and there's one guy like crawling away, like crawling. And all the rest of the guys are gone. I don't know. They're gone. And then I turned him over and said, like, he's fucking, what, dude, you're stupid. I carry a gun, you fucking dumbass. You know what I mean? I was like, at this point, I was mad because there was people everywhere. Like, I know I'm in trouble. Like, there's no way I'm getting away with this at this point. So I leave. I get in the car. I tell the girl, I get in the driver's side, tell the girl to get in, and we split. Not even 10 minutes later, the police paged me on a pager. Back then, 1995, we still had pagers. And they're like, hey, you should come turn yourself in. I'm like, for what? They're like, for what? I'm like, yeah, whatever. So I ended up going on the run. So I was on the run for about 2 months. They were raiding houses looking for me. And I was doing what I can to survive, like, I know I'm going to jail. I'm going to jail for life. That's 2 cases of attempted murder. So that's a life sentence for each one at that time, And then, a couple months later, I'm on my motorcycle. I'm in the garage, my buddy broke the chain. I'm in the garage and I get a bad feeling. I'm like, man, something's going on. I'm out of here, Sure enough, I get to the end of the driveway, and there's unmarked cars coming from both directions with their lights on, So then I get in a high-speed chase, this is...
Yeah, I don't want to get too much into that story itself, because this is what the book is about, right? This whole lifestyle that led up to this point.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's pretty impressive, the change that happens, right? Being a kid that grew up in a pretty, suburban lifestyle to a guy that's shooting people outside of apartments. It's people think it can't happen to them. They always think it can't happen to them, right? I'm sure, like you said, you'll never be the guy carrying the gun, and then there you are running from the police after 2 attempted murder charges. So, what made you believe that this book should be written? What made you think that I got to tell this story?
Well, the first time I wrote the story was I kind of just wrote it because I never thought I was getting out of prison when I wrote it. It was like between 2011 and 2013, and I kind of wrote it for myself and for my daughter, so she just kind of know what I went through, a little bit, in case something happens to me, that she'll know what happened with me. I wrote my daughter every week, but. So I wrote the book and ended the book where, I was in prison. Like, I got a life sentence in prison, I finished around 2013 or 14. And then I did another 6 years before, luckily, they changed some laws and I got out of prison, But around 2015, I woke up in Ad Sag. It was my daughter's birthday. And I was like, I just don't want to do this no more. Because I was using drugs and, I was on methadone and morphine because they give you all that stuff in prison for pain. So I was all strung out on drugs, but I still did college. I still, did some things. Like, I just didn't want to sit in there and do nothing, you know? And next thing you know, they're talking about us getting out. Like, they're changing laws. And in 2015, I kind of learned a lot about myself. I went to a lot of groups, you know, and I got sober and learned, you know, a lot about myself, about addiction, about resentments, you know, causative factors. I learned all this stuff. And essentially, you know, I was able to take a little bit out of each one of these groups and change, you know, and by the grace of God, I did, you know. And then around 2017 or 18, the Prop 57 came into effect, saying that if you got 15 years or more in, and you're a nonviolent three-striker, that you could, you know, if you can make it through the board of prison terms, they're going to let you out. And I did everything I could to get found suitable. You know, on my first time, I got found suitable on my first hearing, which is unheard of, but I just didn't want to be in there no more, you know?
Yeah.
And,
I get it.
And then, because after the shooting, I did get out of prison. And then I got in trouble again and got 28 to life. So I was struck out. You know, I was never getting out of prison because in 2002, they, when you got a life sentence, that was it. It was like life without. You know, they weren't letting nobody out. You know, so
yeah.
You know, and here I am today. You know, I'm an electrician. You know, I got my book published. I rewrote the ending. You know, that I'm out. I'm successful, and I have a great life, man. And I never, ever, ever thought that I could have that. You know, and it's, you know, by the grace of God, dude. Here I am today. You know, living a good life, you know.
And so, so you believed you want to tell the story because you want people to know how easy it is to get put in that position, but also how you can change, right? Because obviously the book talks about the change that you've made.
Yeah, of course. You know, the way I look at it, you know, everybody's different. But for me, I used to blame all my problems on my dad. You know, my dad started me in drugs. I'm a drug addict. I'll never be anything. I can't do this. I can't do that. You know, and then when I realized that, you know, if you take responsibility for your life and take responsibility for your actions and quit blaming all your problems on, you know, everyone except yourself, you know, you could accomplish a great deal, you know, and that's exactly what I did. You know, I got my AA degree. Oh, you know, I said I can never do schoolwork because I had ADHD. You know, I can't do this, I can't do that. But, you know, I wrote a book. I got an AA degree, electrical vocation. I'm a great electrician now. Dude, all these things I thought I could never do because I can't do attitude, I've done. I just wasted my whole life on being irresponsible, man. You know, I had like a lot of resentments for my dad, you know. And obviously my dad had problems too at the time, you know. I just blamed everything on everybody but myself, dude. But, you know, when you take responsibility for your life and you really want to do good, you can do it, man. I don't care who you are or what you've been through, because I tell you, you know, people will say, oh, well, you know, this happened to me and that happened to me. And I'm going, you know what? All that happened to me too, just in a different way. You know, all the stuff that happened to you happened to me just in a different way.
And that's one of the things, because I don't know if you've ever been a part of the anonymous programs, but
I've been on.
I'm a very strong member of it. Started my own groups and stuff like that, you know. But I have part of their way of life is experience, strength, and hope, right? That's what you're supposed to do in every one of their meetings. And I think it's when we take our resentments and our regrets, we translate them into experiences, right? That means we've learned to cope with them and know that they take some accountability in them. Once we find that experience, we find strength in those experiences, and then we pass hope on to the next person. But if I'm consistently the victim, if I'm consistently the guy that got taken advantage of, right, then there's nothing ever going to be wrong with me, and I'm going to sit in that same predicament I was before. If I was to ask you, what are some of the things that you've learned as of today? Because obviously you said some of them, but what are some of the things you've learned as of today from this whole experience? Like, maybe not the whole experience, but let's talk about like in your transition into recovery and building a new life for yourself? Like, what is some of the things you had to learn? You said you became an electrician, and I'm talking about hard learn, not like life lessons,
Well,
but the things you've learned.
After, growing up on the streets pretty much and going through what I went through, I never took responsibility for anything. I didn't have no compassion. I didn't care about nothing except, I did everything I could to get money, to get high. And I didn't care what I had to do to get it. I didn't, I'm not going to minimize the situation and say that, well, I didn't, hurt anybody that didn't have it coming or wasn't whatever. But I didn't go as far as to rob old ladies or, just create victims or whatever. I pretty much, whatever on the streets, people I dealt with that were in it, that's how I got my money. I did steal like car stereos and do stuff like that. You know what I mean? But,
yeah,
I just learned that, that creating victims, the hard lesson that I learned was through victims impact that, every time you hurt somebody, like I'll give you an example. This is one thing that really hit me hard. When I did victims impact, I learned about, when you do harms, so I shot these two people, right? So I not only hurt them, I hurt their families, I hurt the community, the first responders that had to save their lives. Bullets went through other people's windows. There was kids everywhere. I created, it's a domino effect and it just spreads out, and I learned that, when you're selling drugs, you don't know what these people are doing when you give them the drugs, what they're doing to their kids. Actually, I did know because, I went through it, but, I was creating victims every day just by selling drugs, by doing what I was doing. It's constantly creating victims. And, I could go on and on and on, you don't know what these, you don't realize the effect that you're having on the community until you really take some of these groups to understand what you've done,
Absolutely.
And I'll be living yeah.
No, I was going to say me having the opportunity to help somebody. See, a lot of people I think would say, well, it's none of my business what they do after the fact, right? They're accountable for the things that they do. And that is 100% true. But if you want to be truly blessed, right? If you want to feel blessed, then you take accountability for the world that you create for yourself and for others that have to deal with you, right? That's where the real joy of life comes in, not just taking care of myself and make sure my side of the street is clean. The reason I'm doing that is so that when I go out there into the world, I become a positive influence in it. Not someone that distracts themselves from everyone else's woes just because it's not mine, right? If that's not selfish and self-centered, I don't know what is.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a domino effect, and it could goes on and on and on, but I just learned, that I just don't want to be that person anymore. And it's like growing up all over again when you go through recovery. And you get yourself out of all that, all that prison crap, all the politics, all the drama. It's like growing up all over again because you got to learn how to be responsible. You got to learn how to, act. You got this whole, culture of people you've been dealing with. And now you got to change all that, And, when I went through board, that was like one of the hardest things I ever had to do. I essentially was fighting for my life, But you just don't go to the board of prison terms and say, hey, I'm changed, let me go. It doesn't work like that. You got to write an insight paper, relapse prevention plans. You got to do all this stuff and present it to the board when you go there. You got to have a psych evaluation. You got to do all this stuff to get out. It's not easy. And I know guys, are been denied 5 times and they're still being denied. For me, you got to put 100% of your energy into saving your life to get out of prison once you catch a life sentence. It's not easy.
That's so intense to me, man, that you got a life sentence and now you're out today. You got an education, you got your AA degree, right? You became an electrician. You were talking about you have a girlfriend, is that correct?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Yeah, got your place. You know, you didn't just fall back into an old lifestyle. And personally, I think it's because of the spiritual support. Because I hear you say God a lot and feeling blessed, and that's one of the things I'm strong with.
It is like
I don't care what religion you are.
I should have been dead several times over, man. Like obviously something was looking out for me my whole life because, you know, I've seen a lot of dudes get killed in prison, and I've seen a lot of stuff, and I just was able to make it through it, you know, and I've been shot at. I've been through a lot of stuff, man. And obviously, he has a greater purpose for me. And, you know, I owe everything that I have right now to Jesus Christ. You know, he saved me. You know, I'm not the best Christian, but I am a Christian. And, you know what I'm saying? I'm still like,
yeah, I 100% agree with what you're saying. Yeah.
I'm still me in a sense, but I just know the consequences. I know that, you know, for example, I know that like if I use meth, I'm going to pick up a gun and I'm going to create victims until I go to prison. You know what I mean? That's just how it is. Meth, gun, prison, period. So I don't use it. You know, opiates, I don't use it. I don't use drugs. I know if I use drugs, it will ruin everything. So you know what I do? I don't do it. You know what I mean?
Makes sense. I like how you said you'll create victims over and over and over.
Yeah, dude. I'll end up either shooting somebody or, you know, I'll end up in prison. Just period the end. Like, because I'll pick up a gun and then I'll be right back. Just like in 2002 when I got out, you know, I didn't use right away, but as soon as I did, I picked up a gun and I went crazy until the cops surrounded me once again and got another high-speed chase, you know, like, yeah, you know, that's just the way it is, dude. Like, I get that I was young and I was irresponsible, you know what I mean? But still, like, I just have no off switch, you know? And it's like that for me in life now. Like, all the energy that I put into being a gang member and being, you know, whatever I did to get drugs, I do that now to do, you know, to work, to get money legally, to just to do good. And if you put that same energy you did to get your drugs onto, you know, being successful, you'll be successful. You know, I see a lot of people that get out, you know, and they're like they're just like they're struggling, you know, and I get that, but you have to, man. If you want something in life, you got to go get it. You know, I've always been like that, you know, and that's what I was like on the streets. And obviously that's why I ended up with a life sentence. I just did it the wrong way.
Absolutely. Well, and it's that drive.
If I would have put all that energy into doing good things and going to school back then, I'd be a lot better off in life right now. However, the way I am now, you know, it took me that experience to change and become who I am today. Which, you know, I wouldn't change for the world. You know, it's just one of them things in life. You know, everybody has a destiny. God has a plan for us. And we go through what we go through, and then we end up where we're going to end up, you know. And luckily, I am where I am at now, you know.
Absolutely. Well, Chris, just to wrap this up, I can hear my daughter at the door, so it's going to be a couple minutes before she comes barging in. So
yeah,
I want to make sure everyone knows where they could find the book. If they're going to look for it, can they get it on Amazon? Special stores. Where would they look for it?
So on my Instagram and TikTok, it's OC the Dark Side 8083. You could follow me on Instagram or on TikTok, and you could click on the link on my page to buy the book. It takes you to Amazon, or you could just get on Amazon and you know, just write in Orange County the Dark Side, and it will come up, and you could buy the book there. Or if anybody on here wants, you know, if you want to, you know, my email address is chriscurtis8083@gmail.com. You could send me an email, and I'll send you a signed copy for $20. It's the same as it is on Amazon. It's entirely up to you. A portion of the money is going to at-risk youth. So I'm going to try to give back a little bit. And I just want to, you know, thank you for having me on here. I really had a good time.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely appreciate it. I'd like to get back with you about talking a little bit more about the at-risk youth. If you donate your time, that'd be pretty cool. Maybe you can send me a couple videos or some pictures of what you do there, and we can post them up on the bean and just kind of track you as you go. Because it sounds like you're becoming that great influence on the world that we all need, right? So I appreciate you being on the show today, man. And so everyone check out the book, Orange County, The Dark Side.
Welcome to the Big K Experience Show, now streaming.
Okay, thank you. Have a good day.